tallying up the losses from a battle is connected to, but not completely indicative of, who is winning the war. Duran is establishing some very dangerous precedents, and we will see why. Despite Sugar Ray Leonard winning this first round, the fight doesn't look too good for the next few. The wait is over. The analysis is finally here. This is something we've been building up to for months, and today we're going to talk about the importance of first impressions, setting the tone, and why this first round was very responsible for many of the proceeding rounds that followed it. But before we talk science, my first live reaction to the first 5 rounds of this fight is for free on Patreon if you just make an account. Other than that, let's talk science, which we're going to do frame by frame as we always do. It's often touted that first impressions are everything, and you already see what's about to happen next. And while that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, there are a lot of things to first impressions, or at least they affect a lot of things that follow after them. Less than 10 seconds into the fight, there's a miniature feeling out process with several feints and twitches, shifts in the guard, until Roberto Duran breaks through that awkward tension and makes a statement. He makes the first statement, and it's a big statement. Step in right hand, one of the most aggressive and dangerous punches, a risky punch someone can throw, and that's his first move. Right? Leonard reacts with surprise. His guard kind of crumbles and shifts, and he jumps back. He's like, what the? Because that's a crazy way to open a fight. Interestingly enough, I think it's probably fair to say that Duran intended to throw that punch just to play with Sugar Ray Leonard's mind, just to set the tone, because despite having Sugar Ray Leonard against the ropes, he backs up and resets, meaning he wasn't looking to capitalize off that shot. He was using it to prove a point, make a statement, and start a trend. And so the war begins. Leonard is not only trying to reclaim territory by getting his back off the ropes, but he's also trying to reclaim a little bit of dignity, some psychological edge, and the step in feints, shifting and dropping his weight aggressively and pushing back Duran. He's basically telling Duran it won't be that easy to push me around. You see him aggressively feinting, level changing, stepping to Duran. But it takes 2 to tango, and this isn't just boxing, and it's not just chess either. It's also a very psychological game where Duran knows he can't let Leonard start feeling too comfortable. Leonard kind of finds a range where he can plant, and Duran stands in front of him and feints the jab just to get another response out of Sugar Ray Leonard, just to upset his rhythm, not let him get too comfortable, too confident. And Leonard does respond. He does react quite abrasively to that move. That jab feint gets Sugar Ray Leonard to back up and reset. And based off that feint, Duran feels like the jab has potential to land, and so he's going to wait for Leonard to start stepping in front of him again, and then he tries to time that step in with a jab. It may graze the forehead, it may completely miss, but regardless, Duran is gaining confidence. Leonard, after circling around with Duran for a few seconds, does a pretty aggressive feint of his own, another step in jab feint, and that does get a notable reaction from Duran, gets him to lower that right hand, probably to parry the body jab. And Leonard can gain some confidence from that, knowing that he can get Duran to bite on some feints as well. A reinforcement of that hypothesis is only a second later. We see that confidence start to kind of manifest itself through Leonard stepping to Duran, going back on the front foot. But there's 2 games being played. Duran is also looking to time that front foot step when Leonard takes that step forward. And so Duran is still testing the waters. He's not fully committed yet, but also Leonard is trying to prove a point, and he's waiting for a response from Duran. So we saw Duran try and time that front foot step earlier. He tries it again, but Leonard is very reactive. He's kind of waiting for Duran to throw something, and that's why he instantly pulls back and responds with a jab of his own that just barely misses. But in order to solidify the point Leonard is trying to prove, which is, I'm not going to let you bully me that easily, he does feel like he has to land. And so he times Duran stepping around. As he steps around to his left, Duran's left, that foot is planted. He's kind of in a position where he can't really respond too well. And so Sugar Ray Leonard times him right there. As Leonard lands the jab, notice how he's already looking for a potential response from Duran. He's already on his bike, getting ready to move, expecting Duran to do something back. The lead hand activity from Duran is generally indicative that Sugar Ray Leonard's expectations that Duran wants to answer back are warranted, because he sure does. When that lead hand starts pumping and he feints the right hand, closing the distance. He kind of squares up with him. He's going to repeat that pattern a few more times to close the distance with Sugar Ray Leonard. But yeah, he's looking for entries right now. But Duran is also taking note of the fact that when he steps in with those feints in that lead hand, he can corner Leonard and put him against the ropes. And that's also going to become very important. Duran is still trying to answer back. He's trying to use that lead hand to set up that right hand. And he's also stepping in with the lead hand, and he's also backing up Sugar Ray Leonard at the same time. So that lead hand is doing a lot. But as he throws the right hand, Leonard is slick and he gets underneath it and he gets around it and he starts circling out. But pay attention to what Duran is doing here. He's looking at Leonard. He sees this and he's going to start putting his eyes on what Leonard is doing in response to his own moves, and he's going to start adapting. And he sees Leonard getting that bent over position where he's kind of leaned over his front foot, and that position will become important later. They reset and the rhythmic dance begins again. Leonard is stepping to Duran slowly, and Duran is still trying to get a feel for Leonard's timing, and Leonard is still trying to upset Duran's footwork with a jab, catches him circling out to the left. Well, he tries to catch him rather, but Duran is kind of aware that Leonard is going to be flicking out that jab as he's stepping in, so he's already more reactive when he's moving, and so he's able to get out away from those shots. You can see Duran's brain go into full effect as he's working to solve the elusive puzzle of Sugar Ray Leonard, and he's using these feints to do so. He's testing the reaction, step in, jab, feint. That jab is not meant to land. It's not even close. He knows it's going to fall short, but he's looking at the parries, he's looking at the footwork, he's looking at the reactions. But like every science experiment, it needs to be repeatable in order to test the hypothesis, and so he repeats it. Big lead hand feint, big step in, and notice how he doesn't throw a punch. That was just a feint. And he's looking at Leonard, and there's a little bit of a psychological game being played here where he's also maybe mocking him a little bit by freezing in place, but at the same time he's testing those reactions. So he's looking at how he jumps back, and he's measuring and he's gauging. Similar to what we said earlier, the activity of that lead hand is going to increase. He's going to start pumping out that lead hand, and it's a good tool to corner Sugar Ray Leonard. That's what you're starting to notice. He can get him to jump back, and when he gets him to jump back in certain positions, if Sugar Ray Leonard is too close to the ropes, he can put him against the ropes, and that's exactly what Duran was looking for. And now Duran is starting to build off of that. He's trying to cut off his trajectory with shots. He used that left hook to kind of stop him from exiting to the left, and it kind of forces Leonard to go into him, and then they kind of smother and everything gets shut down from there. Now, there's no real success in terms of scoring effective shots, but there are two pieces to boxing in this context. There are things that score, and there are things that lead to scoring. Duran's not really landing anything clean, but he's building, he's establishing, he's discovering. Leonard is starting to get a little bit more comfortable, but he's also feeling like, I got to do something to pose a threat. I got to do something to slow him down. And he steps in with the jab, which is really meant to set up the chopping right overhand that partially lands and kind of like slides down and lands partially on the back of the head. But yeah, the lead hand wasn't meant to land. It was just meant to guide and open up space for the right. Duran is trying to paint Sugar Ray Leonard into a corner in a very literal sense, using his feints in his lead hand. And he kind of is going to break his stance once he starts to get him into a position. He's using that lead hand, gets him up against the ropes, and then he's going to step in with that aggressive lead hand feint again. And you're going to see him break his stance just so he can be square with Sugar Ray Leonard to cut off the lateral movement. And then he's going to use that left arm as he closes the distance. He's going to use that left arm to kind of blockade that exit, to lock up that exit. But Sugar Ray Leonard is doing the smart thing, which is when someone's invading your territory, taking your space up. That's what Duran is doing. Duran is taking away real estate, as some people call it. But regardless, when someone's invading your territory, you can either let them invade your territory where you will get beat up, or you can fight back. And that's what Leonard is doing. He's responding in the right way. He's countering off the back foot as Duran is entering, and he lands a couple of nice left hooks, and Duran is trying to work the body. But since he fights off Duran, he's able to find room to escape, and that's exactly what he does. The pace of the feints and the aggression and the distance closing is starting to become more and more frantic as this round progresses. And although Sugar Ray Leonard is winning the round in terms of landing the more scoring shots, the trajectory is tending towards entropy and chaos, which is far less favorable for Sugar Ray Leonard than it is for Roberto Duran, who thrives far more in that type of environment. Duran has started gaining confidence and timing despite getting pieced up at times. Remember, Leonard was timing Duran's lateral movement for the front foot stepping. He tries to time him again with the jab, but Duran sees this. He's waiting for this. He expects this, or he just has the great reflexes, and he slips to the inside, has that right glove up, and lands a nice lead hand uppercut to counter that jab. Finding success emboldens Duran to double down, not just on the amount of things he's doing, but the aggression behind him. He steps in with the jab feint like how we've seen him do. It's backing up Sugar Ray Leonard, but he also steps in with a big overhand feint. These are heavy feints, and he gets a big reaction out of Leonard, pushes him against the ropes, and now he has him in a position where he wants him again, and he's throwing the body shot, and now he's on top of Leonard. Duran's lead hand is getting more and more active, and he may even be using it to bring out some responses from Leonard, which might serve as a reason to why he's getting better and better at timing the jab of Leonard, at least defensively and sometimes with counters. And of course, Leonard is trying to use that jab to keep Duran at bay. And so you see Duran throw out his lead hand, and he, as kind of expected, Leonard is trying to respond back with his own jab, and Duran is getting better at defensively responding. Some good evidence for the claim that Roberto Duran is using that lead hand to bring out responses from Leonard is how he reacts when he throws out that feint. He knows that that's short. He intentionally throws it short, and he sees Leonard pull back, and you see Duran jump back. He's expecting responses to follow up when he throws out that feint. And then once again, we're going to see a very similar occurrence. He's going to throw out that jab feint that's meant to land short, and he's going to be immediately very proactive with his defense, slipping to his right side. He's expecting a response, but he's also simultaneously gauging Sugar Ray Leonard's response, and he sees him again get into that position that we talked about. Leonard is smart. He also isn't just going to let Duran start finding his rhythm, and so he's trying to break that up with the jab. But notice this position right here, because this is also going to be important for the future. This is the second note for the future when we do some analysis on the rounds to come. Leonard steps with the jab, but he circles to Duran's right, and Duran level changes. Now, that pattern is going to show up, and it's going to be very important very soon. Lead hand activity is going to increase for Roberto Duran, and it increases some more, and then boom, a right hand is following, but Leonard just barely pulls out of the way. But again, whenever that lead hand starts pumping from Duran, something is generally coming afterwards. I think at this point, Duran is aware that he can step in with feints and get Sugar Ray Leonard against the ropes. The primary issue is dealing with the response afterwards. Feints, well, really, I think that was a real right hand attempt. I think he just fell short. I think he tried to surprise him. But regardless, throwing shots or feinting shots, he can get Sugar Ray Leonard to back up, especially if he steps in. The problem is, remember last time he got countered, and so he's kind of coming in with a little bit of defensive wariness, just expecting Sugar Ray Leonard to respond. And he does respond, and he throws the right hand, and then Roberto's trying to throw that left hook off the back foot, and they kind of smother each other off of there. But soon after, he still has Leonard against the ropes, and he's going to capitalize on that. Lead hand feints, here they come. Here come the lead hand feints, and then he's jabbing, and he's feinting to freeze him, to keep him back against the ropes, and that way he can step in and start working. And not a lot of effective stuff from Duran, just because Leonard is so defensively smooth, gets out of the way of the left hook, gets inside of the right hand. Just, yeah, he's getting out of the way of so many of these shots. But despite not getting touched with anything significant, this is not the type of fight Leonard wants to find himself in. However, with Duran's aggression and frantic feints, that is slowly what Duran is forcing this fight to become. Once more, Leonard is deeply aware that he has to respond back, and so that's exactly what he's gonna do. Steps around with the jab, which is parried, but he follows up with the same hand to throw the lead hook to the body, and then the right hand kind of gets shut down. Now, in this first round, Sugar Ray Leonard scored the more effective shots, but as far as the trajectory goes, Duran goes to his corner more confident and comfortable than Leonard, despite being outscored. Duran has a lot to build on, and he will in the following rounds. Tallying up the losses from a battle is connected to, but not completely indicative of, who is winning the war. Duran is establishing some very dangerous precedents, and we will see why. Despite Sugar Ray Leonard winning this first round, the fight doesn't look too good for the next few, which I already know because I've seen rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think in the first round, I even took note of how things were looking weird for Sugar Ray Leonard in that first round. And then it turned out to be right, as the next few rounds get very interesting. Notification bell on, like button pressed, in the comments sharing your thoughts. I'm out.